Good evening. This is the D Tycoon Show, and here is the contact information for D Tycoon. Catherine B. D Tycoon ran for alderman and for mayor, and she has this show that brings together political activists and people who want to make a positive change. And today we have with us David Earl Williams III to further elaborate about what he's been doing in the community and how he plans to build a foundation for his next aldermanic run.
Well, thank you for having me back on, and I didn't expect to be on so soon.
Yes, well, Bill Morton and I rotate weeks for interviewing guests, and last week Bill Morton interviewed you, and now it's Trudy Leong is going to interview you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. First of all, I think that Bill and you did not discuss who your supporters were, and then who were they, and how are you working with them now?
Well, there's just, pretty much the constituents of the 48th Ward. No one in particular I'm going to name. It's just, the regular people. Yeah.
How did you start off gathering supporters? Because it does take a lot of work to start from scratch. And then how did you begin and establish a campaign?
Well, the good old grassroots way, like just going door to door, going to, community events, talking to people and see if the message that I was presenting, resonates with them. Having someone who wants to be alderman, who's going to be out there 24/7, not just, being deciding like, oh, maybe I'll do this event or that event. No, you have to be out there all the time. And they liked the fact that I was all over the place as much as I possibly could be.
When you gauged the constituents' opinions about the former alderman, did you find a lot of room to work with?
Yes. Well, there's just some people that don't like, he's still the alderman though, but there's some people that don't like him. And, again, I think I mentioned this the last time I was on, that when you go out to Andersonville, for example, very popular over there because that's the more affluent area. But more of Edgewater and uptown Chicago, they don't care much for Harry Osterman.
Mm-hmm. And how did they come to support you then? Did they donate to your campaign? Did they help with events? How did they help?
Small donations, more of like meet and greets and all that, and they would try to go around and spread the word about me as well. Especially it was hard to get into the buildings along the lakefront, but I had my people there helping me out with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How are you going to keep those supporters with you into your next campaign?
Sure. Well, you stay engaged. There's mass emails, but again, it's just keeping your face visible and try to help out the community as much as you can.
Do you stay in contact with any of some constituents that you came to know?
Yes, all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do like, I wouldn't say monthly, but it depends on what's the situation that's going on in the ward. So I will do like email updates and all that, talking to people, let them know about community events and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. What is the makeup of your core constituents, would you say, your core supporters?
Well, that depends what you mean by that. Is this by race, age, gender?
Everything. Mm-hmm. Everything.
It's a pretty mixed batch, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
You talked about audits during your campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So are audits enough to ensure accountability and transparency? And what else could the City of Chicago do?
Well, I do believe that the City of Chicago's Office of General Inspector, they should be able to make audits, reviews like the city council's programs, especially the committees as well. Mm-hmm. What else could be done more about that? Well, I mean, they're going to probably, if they have to investigate aldermen, they should probably do that too. That's a great thing about Mayor Lightfoot. She's not putting up with the usual BS anymore. I would feel that you need to implement term limits. I know this is more of a novelty thing, but I like to actually see, these elected officials' pay reduced. If anyone's talking about cutting anything, it should be like the salaries of the aldermen, even the mayor. I think it would help out a lot of people. And most definitely getting rid of like the aldermanic prerogative, which Mayor Lightfoot has actually begun to do already. Mm-hmm. The question is about, does aldermanic prerogative, cause segregation? Well, yeah, I think most definitely so when it's more based on like a social class thing, because when it comes to like realty going up in the area. We talked about this last time I was on here, some people don't want the working poor in the area. They don't want, because they're an eyesore to them. And I would say within the 48th ward, there's a huge support for more affordable housing.
Getting back to aldermanic prerogative, if the aldermen, the ones that want the aldermanic prerogative to remain, if they decide to keep it, there really isn't that much that the mayor could do about it. Is there any way that she could change how aldermanic prerogative could be used? I don't think so.
Oh, I believe she did an executive order already on that, like changing that. That's like one of her first things when she did when she came in.
That is what she wants them to do, but she could actually order them to do
yes, because I mean she could even do with the licensing and what's with the other things I'm trying to remember. It was the licensing and the zoning. It's more of with the mayor's office now because they were in charge of that one time, but now it's been taken back to the mayor's office.
Okay,
Yeah.
so before it was the mayor's, and then the alderman took it over, and now it's back to the mayor's office?
From my understanding, because recently I started delving into local politics, the aldermen have always have, for the most part, been in control of those things.
What about the audits that you were talking about in the Office of Inspector General? The Inspector General the office wanted to do audits, but it wasn't able to, or
They weren't allowed to be their own independent branch. I think now that you have a call for transparency, this is going to be more allowed to do.
Do you know of any other cities that do audit committees and different?
Honestly, not off the top of my head, but I know Chicago has been known for its history of corruption, so this would probably be a good blueprint for other cities to follow.
Do you know of any aldermen that have tried to pass legislation for audits? And how would the audits come about? Would the aldermen have to approve of it, or of them, or could the mayor just write an order and then the audits could start being?
Well, I don't even think you need the aldermen or women's approval for that. This, because the Office of Inspector General is kind of separate from what they do.
Okay.
Because they're based on passing ordinance and all that.
Mm-hmm. But the Inspector General never did any audits before because of the pushback. But the pushback worked before. You don't think it'll be working now?
Well, we have a different mayor in there. I think it's going to be a different culture in City Hall. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. I give it 10 years, you probably could wipe most of it out, though.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there is enough constituent support for desegregating our wards?
At least in the 48th ward's case, yes. I've heard people, wanted that, and I've seen it. So I can't speak for all the other wards,
Have there, so based on the constituents that you've spoken with, you would say the majority of the...
Yeah, the majority.
Oh, nice.
At least the people I've spoken to.
Mm-hmm. You also mentioned about how we should resolve public pensions while keeping the pensioner benefits intact. Mm-hmm. How could we do that?
Well, I think I mentioned this last time I was on here. It's like, simply going after, again, just a novelty thing. But this is something I ran on as well. It's like, making the salary reductions, looking for, alternative incomes. Like I was in favor of the LaSalle street tax. You get money from that as well. And that's more of a state thing. And the casino that they want to build as well, that's something you could use.
But if there were a lot of new money coming in, how accountable and transparent does that money have to be in order for that money to go to where it's supposed to go?
Well, that's going to be based on, again, the Office of Inspector General, how they're going to, figure that out. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't trust, again, this is why we've had the issue of corruption in Chicago, leaving it up just to the aldermen and women. They're not going to be open with it unless they're forced to do it.
Mm-hmm. But you think that Mayor Lightfoot could help change the culture?
Yes, because she's already doing it as it is.
Mm-hmm. Is electing a school board enough to ensure better education? What else must we do?
Well, let's see. Myself, I'm not a parent. I think it's better to have people from within the community to be on these school boards than having a mayor appoint people. Because, these... whatever's there in the schools, this affects their children. And I think the parents know better.
Have you spoken with a lot of parents? And then what are their positions about elected school boards? Do you know any local school council members who are parents?
No, I don't know anyone specifically in local school council, but from the people I've talked to, run and are just being out, a lot of them are in favor of it because they're just tired of the bureaucracy. honestly. That's the same thing when it comes to like with the current model of the police accountability, which is not really holding the police accountable when they are in the wrong. It's COPA. They want to see more community involvement, more say in that. So like when I was running for alderman, this is something I still adhere to, I was in favor of CPAC. That's the Civilian Police Accountability Council they want to pass. There's also like GAPA. A lot of us think that GAPA might be a watered down version because it doesn't give the community the final say, because the mayor can still appoint people, though. There's probably going to be that struggle, at least on that issue, which model should they go with, though. And with GAPA, I actually think there would be more bureaucracy involved because you have more elections. And then, with CPAC, you would actually keep it at, I think it's 24 CAPS district currently. So you get 24, I think there's some numbers like 66 people running for office. I think that's a little too much, though.
Do you know what the qualifications are to run?
They haven't worked out the bugs on that yet.
Oh, okay.
I've actually had some ideas for that. I'd like to submit to some of the people who are in the city council right now, like who should run, the qualifications and all that. I would say, maybe, and this would be kind of hard though, because it might be a constitutional issue, but maybe someone who's currently as a cop, actively as a cop shouldn't run, because there might be a conflict of interest there.
Right.
Something like that.
Getting back to the school board, there was something else I wanted to ask you. When you spoke with the parents, what were they most concerned about with their schools? The conditions, the curriculum, what? I,
interesting enough, came across more of like the conditions. Yeah, some of them felt subpar. Yeah, I haven't been in a public school ever since I was 18 years old. I'm 35 years old now, so it used to be a lot worse. I have got a lot of comments where they feel, of course, teachers should be paid better. I agree. I do agree with that. A lot of them feel that, on the administrative side, they tend to get more money than the actual teachers who are doing the work, though.
You mean the teachers think
teachers.
that? Or even,
No, the teachers are, the teachers pretty much are being underpaid, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Like the administrators, like the principals are being paid a hefty amount, and people in the office, they're not, that role may be important, but those who are actually out there teaching the kids, they're being undervalued.
Do you have the parents' side of that problem? Do they know about it, or do they have any opinion about that?
About the teachers being underpaid?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, a lot of them have told me this, and I happen to agree with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For the Citizen Police Review Board, is that enough to resolve better communication between the community and the police? What else must we do?
As I mentioned, I think it's a good start to have more community involvement in that. They do have the CAPS meetings, which, people are always more welcome to come out, within each ward. It's different for each ward when they do it, but, you could do follow-ups like, what's the crime rate in the area and all that. But, again, I don't feel that leaving it up to an appointed board is going to really bridge that gap when you can have people who have actually been affected by police brutality. And I'm not saying all cops are bad. My step uncle, he was a police officer. He served for many years, and you have to have this balancing act when it comes to that. And I think the community input and their involvement and how these issues should be handled when it comes to these cases,
Do you have Do you have any ideas about how to improve citizen involvement in such things as CAPS meetings or better communication with the police? Because we have attended a lot of CAPS meetings, and attendance really isn't enough to reflect the entire community. I don't know about.
It's pretty low for some of them, right? Like in a 48th ward. The one they had on Tuesday just recently, it was a community meeting about public safety. I invited a lot of people to that too. Normally there would be about maybe 2 or 3 that would come to that one specifically, and then I've been to others where there's like 10, more like in Andersonville. I think it would be privy for like the current alder person, to spread the word more than just relying on like mass email. If it was me, I would put up posters. I would make phone calls as much as I can to let people know, hey, these things are happening. You need to be more involved in the community if you care, because you can't force people to go out there. But if you're wondering why someone's getting shot down the street, it's probably important, to go to this.
Right. Did you have any communication with the underrepresented constituents in your ward?
Those who felt like they weren't represented?
Right.
Well, of course, yeah, that's why they voted for me.
And then did you talk with them about any ideas that they might have, or how they could become more active with the police so that they could help bridge that gap between the community and the police? Were you able to?
Well, for those issues when it came, they always talked about like CPAC and how to get more involved with the CAPS stuff, which is funny. Because, this is supposed to be the job, at least I feel the current older person to go out there and let people know, but they don't. So, like I said, if it was up to me, look, I'll even do the robocalls. How legal that is, I don't know. Just to let them know, hey, be involved in your community as much as you possibly can.
Do you think you could incentivize that so that you actually bring in the community? Because do you think that's important to bring in all segments of the community into the government table?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's their community, of course. I don't know, there are more parties, too. Like the ward nights we talked about the last time. I think if you're going to have one event, you should always mention those things there, too.
Right.
Yeah. It shouldn't be separate, is what I'm trying to say.
What are your current goals?
My current goals, right now I am just going out wherever I'm needed in the ward, in the city, just to help out. Yeah.
Where do you find you are the most needed then?
It doesn't really matter where. It's just, wherever, someone needs my help moving stuff out of the ward because the rent's high or whatever. Volunteering at events, I'm there, I'll do it, if I have the time, of course. Yeah.
So do you still make appearances at events to get your name out there?
Oh, well, I mean, I go to the public safety meeting because it's in my interest as a constituent to, know what's going on and, attend these events. But, it has a little bit to do with that as well, of course. And people recognize me. They're always usually friendly. Maybe not so much Harry Osterman, but the rest of them are.
Could you describe for me your work with the Convoy for Hope?
Yeah, so it is a Christian-based organization that does I did disaster relief. It was one time, actually. Back in, I think it was at the end of May, or it was early June 2011, they had the tornado that hit Joplin, Missouri. So I went down there for at least a day or two to, help clean up as much as I could. Yeah. And I did work with, that's a lot to remember now. But I did a little bit of work with NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness. That was more of their, was the mental illness initiative thing. So we did a little thing with the police officers, so they're aware, like, sometimes they may come across an individual who may be mentally impaired, and they may not have the training for that, and they might mistake it for something else, like they're being attacked or whatever, and there's other ways to resolve those issues.
What were you able to accomplish? Was there any additional training implemented at the police academy as a result of that work?
Well, from just looking what's in the media, I mean, it doesn't seem like much of that has come up. But there have been some cases, though. This is just, based on how the officers themselves individually, how they resolve those issues. And I've done work with the Elks, the Benevolent Protector Order of the Elks.
Yes.
So they mainly are a charity group, but their history is kind of funny. It's like a 151-year organization, but. So they used to be all exclusive, a Caucasian, male-oriented group. I don't think it was till like the 70s they actually started letting in other races, though. And it was 90.
What was that the turning point? What do you know why they?
I think there was just a lot of complaints about how inclusive it was. It wasn't until like 1993 they started letting women in, the turn of the century, and I think it had a lot to do with the numbers because they were losing membership as well.
Okay.
But, it was just more of charity-based, and I was happy to be a part of them. But, a lot of times, like even with the American Legion of Morton Grove I was with, I did because it's veterans mainly, I did a lot of veteran outreach, especially, those who are suffering PTSD.
What did you? What kind of work did you do with the American Legion of Morton Grove for the?
More the veteran outreach for people to join. But I on my own time actually would reach out to individuals who were suffering from PTSD and if you need someone to talk to, instead of. Unfortunately, some of them would off themselves because it's just a lot of trauma they dealt with from their military service.
Well, you were a veteran too, right?
Yeah, I didn't. Thankfully, I don't suffer from anything like that. But it's a serious issue because you have a lot of vets, and I mentioned this when I was on another show, the Bruce Dumont show, a while ago. You come back, You serve your time. People do give you a handshake. Oh, thank you for your service. So a lot of people are just who serve in the military. They're just kind of cast aside. Sure, you got the Montgomery GI Bill. You could go to school, but it's just people with the underlying issue when it comes to mental health. A lot of people seem to shun that. They don't care for those people. And as a so-called Christian nation, we should treat people better than that. And regardless of your religious views, you should treat people with respect.
The Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks, what kind of work do they do again? I know
Charity work.
I know charity, but what kind of charity work?
Well, I mean, it could be after school. It could be even hospitals and all that.
What have you done with them?
Well, I'm trying to remember because it's been a while because I might have mixed up the two. But I know a lot of the times, going back to like the American Legion, because they're similar in a way. Well, they do work with veterans too, by the way. But because they're so similar, lots of times it's just like you go in, you talk to other people. They got the nice bar and all that there too, as a leisure time as well. But you donate to different charitable causes as well. It could be something overseas. It could have been like back then with the Philippines when they're hit by the tycoon over there. Tycoon. Typhoon. Yeah, see, yeah, that's the name of the show, is Tycoon. But yeah, like things like that, more of humanitarian efforts. Their headquarters are actually here in Chicago, right off of Diversity, Parkway and North Lakeview Avenue.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, right over there. So.
Do you think you could apply your work with these organizations toward your future work if you are elected as alderman?
Well, yeah, I mean, I ideally would like to see better government at least be involved in those avenues. But yeah, I mean, look, I was talking about giving 30% of my automatic salary to some charities, so I wouldn't mind doing that.
Since you worked with the National Alliance of Mental Illness NAMI, did you have anything in mind that you would pursue for the mentally ill if you were elected as alderman?
I think unfortunately we have a large homeless population. A lot of them happen to have mental impairments, so look for more affordable housing, or even like the tiny housing units that they've done in places like Arizona and Washington State, and everyone wants a house. I don't think anyone wants to be homeless, and I think that's a good start, and get some work programs going for them if they desire that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any ideas about how to improve the schools besides getting more money in? And how could we get more money for the schools if we? Do you have any ideas about how to audit the schools? Are they audited now? The spending.
Well, there are some audits that do happen, and a lot of that comes from property taxes too. That's why they always raise the tax. But yet at the same time, this is why it's important to have transparency in government, because we have very high taxes in Chicago, but we don't know where a lot of that money goes. Right. So that's a huge issue. Again, I mentioned about the marijuana legalization of the casino, depending on where they're going to put that. Because I'll have my issues on that too. I don't think it should be in. Somewhere on like the South or West Side, because they usually tend to like to put those type of establishments in very poor places, and that's not good. I don't think that uplifts the community. But somewhere downtown is fine, though. I'm open to any other form of revenue, but realistically, you're going to have to pay something for this. I think the quality of the Chicago public school teachers are fine, because maybe that's my bias. I went to a Chicago public school, of course, and most of them. I do think, again, when you look at the administrative costs, maybe not so much going towards the principals or the admin, more towards the teachers, and them to be able to have the avenues to be able to pay for stuff outside of what they're given. For example, I have friends who are teachers. They have to pay out of pocket, for these materials.
Right.
And I don't think that's fair.
Do you have any ideas about how to address pensioners' benefits? If I know that what has been promised to the pensioners, of course, have to be kept. But right. Do you have any ideas about what benefits should be in the future? At all?
Well, now if we're talking on a state level, this is based on the state constitution, so that's automatic, mandatory. They have to pay them. The city city workers especially. I know there have been cuts to some of them, But when it comes to like, again, I'm open to alternative revenue, how to fund that. I don't want to cut anyone's stuff. They've been promised that because you sign up for that, then it's like, oh, we're going to take it away. But yeah, we don't do anything to the politicians that make a lot of money off the back of the people, and they're not doing their job for the most part.
For ensuring accountability and transparency, is there anything else besides audits? And how do we actually initiate audits? So the mayor, as long as the mayor pushes for them, then we could, or do you know what other steps?
There's just be more on the office of the mayor to make this happen, on the city level anyway.
Right, and that never has been.
Not to my knowledge, no. I'm sorry, I grew up in the era of daily. This is kind of like a new concept to me, especially with Rahm Emanuel. It's like, I've never really heard him speak about that.
Do you have any ideas about how to make committee hearings accessible to the public? Maybe they are broadcast live now, but how can how could they be archived and then so that the public could access them?
Well, they should be archived. I know Mayor Lightfoot has started to actually broadcast the committee events and all that, which is great. And they should be archived. Now for individual aldermen, when it comes to their ward meetings and all that, very good example. Andre Vasquez in the 40th Ward. I think he's doing a fantastic job, by the way. He said that every ward meeting will be recorded. I don't see this with the 40th Ward. I don't see this with many of the other wards when it comes to this. They could FaceTime it or Facebook or whatever you want to do. From your own home if you can't come out. But as long as you're somehow involved and there's that avenue there, I think that's a good way. Yeah, we have the resources. It's 21st century with technology and all that. I would do it, by the way. I would do the same thing.
Thank you so much, David Earl Williams III, for your ideas and your ambition, optimism to run again for alderman of the 48th Ward of the City of Chicago. Again, this is the D Tycoon Show, and you can contact D Tycoon at mayortycoon@yahoo.com, and we also have monthly job fairs at the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce monthly job fairs. And for more information about the job fairs, please email us at info@rogerspark.cc. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Trudy Leung, and we had our wonderful guest, David Earl Williams III.
Thank you.
You're welcome.